Hello guys and gals, me Mudahar, and welcome back to another episode of Haunted Gaming. This time we take a look at a Pokemon creepypasta titled Drifloon's Clever Trap. Yes, we all know that Pokemon Drifloon from Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. Heck, even later in the series. What could be the clever trap that Drifloon sets? Well, sit back, relax, and let's find out what Drifloon is capable of. This is Drifloon's Clever Trap, and let's start reading it right now. There, close to the edge of town, our purple ball does float around. Shiny, big, and funny too, as if placed right there, just for you. If you are good, then don't dare stay, else grab its string and fly away. When you go, no one will know, maybe in sand, maybe in snow. You never get the chance to leave, but be sure, your family will grieve. You may be battered, cut, and bruised, and struggling is of no use. The greedy ones don't dare to look at the one holding the hook. They take the bait, and that is that. They fall for Drifloon's clever trap. I never believed this rhyme when it was told to me in my childhood. I thought, just like all of you, it had to be one of those creepy myths to scare children into being good and not stealing things. I thought it was only a coincidence that Drifloon was used for the rhyme because it looked like a purple balloon. How naive I was. I'm going to tell you all a story, a real one, just to prove to you that this rhyme is real. I was a trainer in my youth, encouraged by my parents to go out onto a worldwide adventure alongside my Pokemon, a skitty named Snuffles. We traveled far and wide, defeating trainers and even a few gym leaders. It was great fun and everyone we met were friendly, warm, and genuinely interested in my progress as a trainer. That was until me and Snuffles visited a small town surrounded by mountains and forests. We were on our way to the next city with a Pokemon gym, but became lost on the way. The people there were, at first, surprised that our trainer had visited this part of the region. They tried their best to be as welcoming as possible, but even for my young self, I could tell something was wrong. They were all worried. It seemed as if they wanted to ask me something, but were too afraid. We spent the night at the town's inn, and in the morning they prepared a huge breakfast for us, still putting on the facade from earlier. While Snuffles was happily gobbling up the food, I decided to ask them what was wrong. They couldn't take the slightly reserved and secretive atmosphere. The owner of the inn, who was eating breakfast with us, an old man, remarked on how observative I was. He stressed that he truly wanted to say that was wrong, but only wanted the only trainer to visit their town for a long time, really, to enjoy their stay, not to trouble them with their problems, though he seemed relieved and happy that I asked. He asked me to wait at the table for a few moments and left the room. He came back with a young woman, at least 23 years old, who first politely bowed to me and apologized for troubling me. She told me how her young son had disappeared along with his friend, another young boy. It seemed they liked to go on adventures into the forest and mountains despite the warnings and restrictions of their parents. The villagers had searched the nearby area to no avail, some being injured by wild Pokemon who were startled by their shouts. The only place left unchecked was a cave to the north of the town. The woman stated that many had tried to enter the cave only to be attacked and chased out by the territorial Pokemon that lived within it. None of the villagers had their own Pokemon, and that my appearance to the town was a godsend. She begged me and Snuffles to enter the cave and search for the lost children. Snuffles leaped about me frantically. I remember nodding to her. Both of us determined to find them. Some of the other villagers, including the old owner and the mother, came along with us. We entered the cave and were immediately attacked by several angry Geodude. Seemed those were the Pokemon that scared the villagers away before. The cave was dark and it smelled slightly of rotten mushrooms. A few Paras in one corner of the cave were the source of that smell. It was ridiculously overpowering, burning in the nostrils. A few of the others left the cave after feeling ill. Another became scarred by the glowing eyes of Golbat in the darkness. Only leaving me, Snuffles, the owner, and the mother left. The cave became quite narrow, and the echoes of muffled noises, Pokemon or otherwise, were prevalent in our ears. The old man spotted something in the corner of his eyes and let out a slight shriek. A little purple ball was floating in the air, across from a mouth and two beady black eyes. It floated around us for a few seconds before zooming off into the darkness. Snuffles chased after it and three of us followed. We all came to a dead end and Snuffles wasn't anywhere to be seen. I started to panic when I heard a little meow from above. The mother pointed towards a hole in the ceiling, like a narrow passage, just small enough for Snuffles and myself to fit through. The two adults helped me get up to it, and myself and my Pokemon proceeded through. It was long, and the ground beneath me had several small stalagmites that pierced and scraped my skin, making me fumble and drop my flashlight. As well as that, I was sure I heard sobbing. Very faint sobbing. I started to get unnerved. I couldn't even turn him around if something scary was at the end. Snuffles rubbed her cheek against mine as if to tell me not to be afraid. I smiled at her and pet her a little, taking a short moment to collect myself, when just behind Snuffles I could see two shiny black eyes. I panicked. The eyes came closer to myself and Snuffles rapidly, letting out a shriek like air, escaping the narrow gap at the bottom of a balloon. Snuffles fought desperately against the eyes that I assumed was a Drifloon from earlier, and eventually scared it away. But she was badly injured, from both the Pokemon and the stalagmites. I struggled to put her back in her Pokeball and instantly fell defenseless. I couldn't turn, my only Pokemon was injured, and I was in a dark cave with an unknown number of angry Drifloon. Along with the sobbing, now getting louder as I progressed, it overwhelmed me, and I quickly became terrified. I did the only thing I could and pushed forward. Finally reaching the exit, there were those two shiny beady eyes again. I carefully positioned myself to sit on the edge of the tunnel and pulled out my spare flashlight. There, the Drifloon was collapsed on the floor next to it, two sobbing pale and thin children. The two almost leaped in joy when I told them I was a trainer there to help, and that their families were waiting. Both of them looked so weak, though. I struggled to help both of them into the tunnel, and all of us left the cave safely. All the villagers were happy to see the two children again, some remarking how they must have learned their lesson now, before piling chocolate, sweets, and food on them to fill them back up. The town warmed up, and the depressed, secretive air had disappeared. Everyone thanked me and offered to let me stay in the town as long as I wanted for free. I did decide to stay there a few extra days while Snuffles rested. Just before we left the town, the two children and their families came to see me off. The two of them thanked me again and apologized. I asked how they ended up with the Drifloon. They merely said that they saw two purple balloons and grabbed the strings, believing the rhyme was a lie. Only remembering the cave and the darkness after that, they stressed that they wouldn't go out into the forest and mountains again. I was happy that they were safe, the villagers determined to get their own Pokemon just in case, and that those two had learned their lesson. So, moral of the story, don't take the rhyme lightly. It has a lot more truth than you may think. While those two were safe, some don't end up that lucky, and no one knows where they are. What about the other Drifloon? Who knows? There was only one in the cave when I was there. It tugs on the hands of children to steal them away. However, it gets pulled around instead. A Pokemon formed by the spirits of people and Pokemon. It loves damp, humid seasons. It is whispered that any child who mistakes Drifloon for a balloon and holds onto it could wind up missing. Yeah, those Pokemon entries are real, respectively in Pokemon Diamond, Pearl, and Heart Gold and Soul Silver. This was an interesting type of creepypasta, one that I have not done in quite a while. It's similar to Hypno's Lullaby, even had a cool rhyming scheme, and the type of creepypasta, as you said, it doesn't focus on necessarily actions in the game, but rather a bit of the game lore extended to what is a pretty plausible creepypasta. It was great, since it took what initially, again, is just a Pokédex entry, and these are real Pokédex entries, by the way, and turned it into a fleshed-out story in the Pokeverse. Something that can and might happen. It would make a cool side story in later games. I know, it's too mature, possibly even too edgy. But then again, most players are mature, and some are quite edgy. Other such entries, such Pokédex entries, exist in the universe as well that are in fact just as creepy, but that is another video for another time. Trust me, there are plenty of weird Pokemon creepypasta theories that could come out just related to these entries alone. Now, as far as this creepypasta goes, because that's what this episode is going to be focusing on, it was done fairly well, and it was intriguing to listen to. It didn't like peter out halfway through. The climax felt a little too quick, though, with the encounter from the Drifloon, and I wish it was a tad longer and offered more insight into the creatures. Just have a little more sense of urgency going on. Don't just go inside, go through a, whole fight off a Drifloon and rescue the kids real quickly. You want to see what these creatures are capable of, how dark they can become, how weird they manifest themselves in such a situation, because remember, we don't know how many there are, so who knows. I kind of want to see a Drifloon mob attack, Thankfully, though, the kids were saved, and it didn't end up, in a very cliched type of ending for a creepypasta, but it did give us the fact that the premise for these, creatures just attacking little children and taking them somewhere else could manifest itself in other regions or part of the Pokemon universe, which, again, is an interesting take, because this is a weird-looking Pokemon. Trust me, the first time I saw it in Pokemon Diamond or Pearl, by that whole windmill area, I was kinda weirded out just looking at its appearance. Trust me, I mean, most people think it's cute, but all I saw was that cross on its face, and I don't know what the hell was going on through my mind, but it looked a little shady to me at first. And now reading the Pokédex entries, it is quite shady to me. Guaranteed. But then again, that is another story for another time, me and my Pokemon-related squabbles. This was a look at this creepypasta simply focusing on a Pokédex entry for one certain Pokemon, and you know what? It ended out great, and I really do enjoy it. That being said, I will always ask you, what do you think about it, and what would you change to make it better? What would you even rate it? This is me, Mutahar, and this has been another episode of Haunted Gaming, and if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. This is me, Mutahar, and I am out.